Welcome to Podcast Sound Advice, the place for up-to-date podcast tactics and trends. You'll find actionable strategies to help you grow your audience, expand your influence, and monetize your content. Join Phyllis and Kelvin for Podcast Sound Advice starting now.
Welcome to Podcast Sound Advice. This is Phyllis, and today I'm talking about the 7 easy steps to being a great podcast host. One of the best things about having your own podcast is the ability to interview smart, interesting people. These connections allow you to expand your personal and professional network, all while creating great content. Even better, it's a platform that you own and one that can potentially reach listeners worldwide. It's one of the reasons why I'm breaking down these 7 easy steps. So let's get started. Step number 1, have great guests, of course. Who's on your dream guest list? And what makes someone a great guest? Well, I feel like the best trait of a great guest happens when there's alignment with your audience and what they want to hear and the kind of information that's going to be valuable to them, and with a guest who can share that type of information in a fun, interesting way. You want a guest who will share great information that serves your audience, of course, but additionally, you want to ensure that being on your podcast is beneficial to your guest as well. When there's overlap, you've got great podcast synergy and the makings of a great interview. Step number 2, you need to make them an offer they can't refuse. It's time to book your guests. Now, do your homework before you send an email, especially if you don't know this guest personally. Write a 2 or 3 sentence email explaining genuinely and sincerely how much you like their work, whether you read their books or you've enjoyed their TED Talk or you've been on their website or whatever it is. You need to be genuine and straightforward about why they'd be a great guest and why their expertise would be helpful to your audience. You genuinely want to just explain why you want to interview them. But again, be concise, do it in 2 or 3 sentences. You can write 2 or 3 additional sentences about why your podcast is a great place for them to be able to showcase their expertise. Mention how much your audience will appreciate and value the content that they bring to the table. In that email, you want to include a link to your scheduling app so that they can select the day and time that they are available to record with you. One of the most challenging aspects of booking great guests is the logistics around availability. Don't make this hard. Busy people are not going to email back and forth multiple times with a variety of dates and so forth. So give them a link that allows them to schedule, even if it needs to be several weeks out. Give them that option to make it really easy. Also be aware, your guest may not be the person who sees this email first. They may not be the first person that gets this information. It may be an administrative person or a VA. So again, the more concise and direct you are, the better. Keep it simple, keep it easy. Once they've selected a time and they've scheduled, you want to automate your thank you response and include a couple of important things in that email right away. Number 1, link to a document or a page on your website that has everything they need to know about recording with you. Include obviously the day and time, link to the recording software that you're going to use, and even a link to video or information about that software if you're not sure if they're going to be familiar with it. Link to a form where they can provide all the information that you're going to need to be able to promote them and their episode of the podcast. Things like their bio and photo, logo, and links to any of their social media or website, whatever your normal standard is there. You want to make this really easy. Again, an admin person may be doing all of this. So just make it simple for them to be able to give you all the information you need and send it right back. Step number 3, it's time to prepare for the interview. To be able to ask great questions, you do need to know a little bit about your guest beyond the bio or their book jacket cover. So, read the book if they have one and you haven't been able to do that yet, or listen to their podcast or other interviews that they've done. Create some questions that will spark an interesting conversation. Add a couple of personal questions that are based maybe on some things that have happened very recently. Maybe something they mentioned in social media or an event that they attended. It's just a great idea to let them know that you're up to date with what's happening in their world. You really want it to be obvious to the guest and to your audience that you are prepared and ready and you have some juicy questions for your guest and you're ready to go. Step 4, you want to create a great experience for your guest. Again, much of this can be automated, but send a reminder email a week before the episode is going to be recorded and the day before. Include those recording links and all that how-to information again. Also include a phone number where they can reach you the day of recording in case there are any issues or last-minute questions. If you like, and I like to do this, share 2 or 3 questions that you've prepared. This is a great way to get your guest excited about the interview, and it can help them lessen anxiety if they're nervous by giving them something that they can prepare in advance. Let them know about any special segments or always ask questions that you have so that they don't feel off guard. Remember, many guests may not manage a lot of this themselves, so the first time they may see a lot of your information may be the day before or even the morning of the recording. Step number 5, it's time to record. So show up early and log in so that you are there when your guest arrives. Outline what to expect with the recording process. Be really simple and straightforward, explaining exactly how things are going to go. Remind them that everything will be edited and let them know what to do if they need to stop or cough or if the dog barks or something happens that wasn't planned. Explain what happens when you hit record, whether or not you're going to do your introduction then, or if they're going to hear so that they know exactly when they're expected to start talking. Just set the scene so they're really confident and they feel really good about jumping in and getting started in a conversation with you. Step number 6 is post-production time. Now, you may not be doing a lot of this yourself, but it is important to understand the process so that you and your team can make sure this happens every time so you get great results with your podcast. Obviously, you'll have your episode edited, taking out ums and ahs and any spaces or anything that needs to be cleaned up. Have the editor or somebody else on your team pull out a short audio segment, 35, 45 seconds or so is great. That's a really juicy bit of the recording that you can use to create an audiogram as part of the promotion. You'll also be creating episode graphics. You'll want to make a couple of graphics suitable for the social media platforms where you're active and have images that will be easy for your guests to share as well. Have episode notes written and put together a couple of pull quotes that you can use during promotion. You also want to send a thank you note or gift, ideally a day or 2 after recording, especially if their episode is not going to air for several weeks. You really want to let them know in the moment how much you appreciate the time and their generous sharing of information. So whatever your style is, if you're going to write a note or send an email or record a short video, whatever it is you're going to do, just do that in the moment, the day of the interview or the day after the interview, so that they know that you really appreciated it. Step number 7, promote, promote, promote. Send your guest an email the day before with the episode images that you've created and the quotes that they can use and any links. We use the Libsyn Direct Download link a lot because people can hit that link on whatever platform they're on and listen to the episode without having to leave. So if they're on Facebook, they're still on Facebook, but they can listen, for example. Create a blog post on your website with the show notes, with links to any resources that you mentioned or that your guest mentioned. And of course, this is where you'll share the links to your guest information and whatever you've agreed to share at that point. Usually would be a link back to their website, potentially links to their social media profiles, and if you've permitted, a link maybe to a special offer that they've been able to make to your audience. And here's the tip about your blog posts. When you're inviting someone, that email we talked about being really direct, I think in the postscript part of that email, it's a great idea to link to 1 or 2 of the blog posts of previous interview guests. This gives your guest and their team really a great snapshot into how you promote your podcast and the way that you've put together all this information and how nice it's going to look for them after the fact. So they'll be able to see, oh, when I'm a guest, they're going to do this really nice blog post, and here's what that's going to look like and feel like. I think it's just a really good way, if they're not familiar with you, for them to see the way that you're going to handle things right from the beginning. Interviewing smart, interesting people on your podcast, it's a great way to serve your audience. And it's also a great way for you to meet new people and connect with other thought leaders. A robust guest strategy and process makes it easy for you and for your guest. And it also means you can focus on the conversation. You're not having to focus about all these other details. Your guest is going to love how easy you made it, how effortless it was for them, and they'll appreciate being valued and having the chance to share their information with your audience. Next week, we're going to talk about how to be the perfect podcast guest. How would you like to be in demand as a guest expert, receiving emails inviting you to be interviewed? If that sounds like something you'd like to know more about, make sure you check into next Monday's episode. If you have questions about today's episode or suggestions for future information that would be helpful to you, you can always email me at podcast@soundadvicestrategies.com. Until then, I hope you have a great week and happy podcasting.
That's our wrap for this episode. We hope you found today's sound advice helpful. Let us know what you think by leaving us a review. You can get more resources at podcastsoundadvice.com. Until next time.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM. Women's voices amplified.